I'm Alice Loxton and I present documentaries over on History Hit TV. If you're passionate about all things history, sign up to History Hit TV. It's like Netflix but just for history. We've got hours of ad-free documentaries about all aspects of the past. You can get a huge discount from History Hit TV. Make sure you check out the details below and use the code ABSOLUTEHISTORY, all one word, when you sign up. Now, on with the show.
Christkindl, Krampus, and Ishner Krapfel. It is time to get curious about Austria's Christmas markets. European Christmas markets, or the Christkindl market, is a celebration of Advent in the weeks leading up to Christmas. The very first Christmas market was held in what is now Germany back in the Middle Ages. And today, here in Austria, this beautiful tradition continues.
With inviting open-air stalls gleefully packed full of Christmas decorations and toys and presents, and of course those sugary smells of those traditional Austrian pastries. The Christmas market, or Christkindl market, or Weihnachtsmarkt, has its origins in the Holy Roman Empire, which is why you can find them in many parts of Europe, including Germany, France, and of course, Austria. So, here's what I'm curious about with Austria's Christmas markets and traditions. Why are these markets sometimes called a Christkindl market? How did this tradition start, and why? Why are Christmas markets so popular in German-speaking countries? And what does Austria have to do with a famous Christmas carol? What is a Schoko Kipfel, a Kaiserschmarrn, and a Brandteigerringe?
Thank you. Thank you.
Why aren't these Christmas letters written to Santa? Why are there trumpet players on this balcony? And the most curious question of all, what the heck is a Krampus, and is it different than a Krapfen? We begin our curious journey into Austrian Christmas traditions in Vienna, although this isn't where the first Christkindl market began. The first was in what is today's Germany, back in the Middle Ages, then
that same tradition spread across the Holy Roman Empire, which of course included Austria. Fast forward to today, and one of the largest in Vienna is right here in front of City Hall.
In Vienna, there are many Christmas markets to choose from, like this one in front of Schönbrunn Palace, or this one in front of Hofburg, the Imperial Palace, or this one in front of Belvedere Palace. Yes, there are a lot of palaces here in Vienna. Then there is this one at St. Stephensplatz that literally spills over from St. Stephen's Cathedral into the surrounding streets, with heavenly and sparkly chandeliers hanging overhead. And of course, the most popular one is right back here in front of Vienna City Hall. I mean, how can you compete with an entrance like this?
It's very magical, and the lights and all the people here, so people can dance, can drink something hot, or eat chocolate or typical traditional Viennese of their cuisine.
Did someone say Linserschnitter or Karatenkuchen? Ah, you had me at Nüchtern. But in this sea of tasty treats and shiny objects, Christmas markets are, of course, all about Christmas and Advent, with ornaments, Advent calendars, and Advent wreaths.
Every Sunday you have to light up one candle, and then it's Christmas. So you have 4 candles. The first Sunday of the month, you light the first candle, then the second one, the third one, until Christmas.
The Advent wreath is believed to have been started in Germany. Then the tradition spread to Austria and later to the United States. But what does the Advent wreath symbolize? Well, the circle and the evergreen branches represent God's infinite love, and the 4 candles symbolize the 4 weeks of Advent. And sometimes the 4 candles also represent hope, peace, joy, and love. But as lovely as that tradition is, here at the Christmas markets, somehow the conversation always seems to go back to those tasty treats.
Typical traditional are Christstollen, and then we have Krapfen, marmalades, especially apricots, and here in Austria we have the Marillenmarmelade.
We come mostly for food here.
Yes.
We will get back to those soon, but first it's time to get curious about more Austrian Christmas traditions in one of the towns that celebrates it best, Salzburg. Salzburg's Old Town is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and its Christmas markets are simply magical. The grandest of its markets is fittingly in front of its grandest church, the Salzburger Dome, or Salzburg Cathedral. This Baroque version was built in the 17th century, but its origins date back to the 8th century. And somewhere in between all those centuries, someone decided that this square out front was the perfect spot for a Christmas market.
Actually, all of them developed out of farmers' markets. And it was the same here in Salzburg, where in the, when was it, 1491 already, so 1 year before Christopher Columbus entered America, the farmers, they didn't know where to go in winter, because it was quite tough for them to carry around with their horse and carriages. So the city of Salzburg offered them the place to be, and it was the Cathedral Square. And this was the first time where there was a market over the winter time. And in those days, the first Christkindl or Christmas markets developed.
So why are these markets sometimes called a Christkindl market? Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Christkindl translates to Christ child. And in many parts of Europe, the Christ child is represented as an angel, the one who brings the gifts to the children at Christmas. Next, if you say Christkindl really fast, it kind of sounds like Kris Kringle, right? Well, that is exactly where we get the name Kris Kringle, a nickname for Santa Claus. Although Santa Claus actually comes from Saint Nicholas, but let's not get confused. So, back to those Salzburg markets. It's a wonderful tradition for families, generation after generation.
People really come in and they remember last year, they remember like 10 years ago when they came here with the grandparents or great-grandparents. This is definitely something where people just remember history, think about the time when they were younger.
And for the young ones, Christmas is of course all about toys. So let's meet Thomas, the toy-making Santa of Salzburg.
This is actually a toy or kids' toy stall from Thomas Feldbacher. He's from a region quite far away from the city of Salzburg, but still belonging to the province of Salzburg. Okay. He really literally moves to the city of Salzburg during the time of the Christmas market.
So Thomas brings his toy factory to the Salzburg market every year. And he hand makes many of these traditional wooden toys.
You just you burn your name into it. Yep. And I personally think it's just a very nice memory with your kids or for your kids. So my little boy, he's 4.5 now. Every year he gets a toy from Thomas with his name on it.
Aww. And as a child, there is nothing better than looking forward to Christmas Day. Except here in Austria, children don't look forward to the morning of December 25th. As in many parts of Europe, families celebrate Christmas on the 24th, not the 25th, exchanging presents in the evening and then going to church together at midnight. But one tradition that is definitely the same in Austria as in America is decorating the tree. And here in the European Christmas markets, there are beautiful Christmas ornaments, from tiny glass angels to big, beautiful hand-painted blue ones.
There are sort of special editions every year. There are some motifs, like for example, the Castle of Salzburg or the Cathedral of Salzburg. And there are families that come here for like the last, more or less 40 years already. Because Maria is here from the very first beginning of the market.
That's lovely. How do I say beautiful in German?
Wunderschön.
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 Maria?
Yeah?
Maria, das heißt es wunderschön.
Es ist.
Ist wunderschön. Close.
And there are many different shapes to those handmade Christmas ornaments, including the bell, which is instrumental to a darling Austrian Christmas tradition.
And the bell, which is very important for us on the 24th.
Why is that?
Because when the bell rings, the Christ child was here. And so all the kids are going crazy because usually they got kicked out of the living room so that mom or dad can sort of light up the Christmas tree. And then suddenly there is the bell. And then the Christ child was here.
He just secretly came in, left some gifts, and it's amazing that the kids never saw.
From delicate little bells to booming horns, we go up above the Salzburg market to get curious about another Christmas market tradition. Wonderful trumpets and horns playing from the towers and balconies surrounding the market for the visitors below.
But it's an Austrian tradition.
I would say Alpine, also in southern parts of Germany and Switzerland, but very much in Salzburg as well. Yes.
Excellent.
It's only the best musicians from Salzburg who are allowed to play here.
But the origins of this seemingly serene sound aren't so serene at all.
So being an Alpine tradition, does it go back to where they were on mountaintops, kind of playing to each other?
This type of music was literally actually to alarm the people. For example, right in the city of Salzburg or on the fortress, the people who live here realize, there's something going on, we have to be careful.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so it was to alert people if the bad guys were coming, or whatever the case may be, and now it's this beautiful Christmas tradition.
And just across from the market is an Austrian Christmas vault full of treasures. But we know the combination, so let's go inside. The Salzburger Weihnachtsmuseum is an incredible collection of Christmas knickknacks and traditions from German-speaking countries from about 1840 to 1940. And it's all thanks to one Christmas-loving woman. No, not Mrs. Claus, but a Mrs. Kläuber.
Mrs. Kläuber was gathering about 40 years. Yeah, and he was so impressed by the Christmas tree of her grandmother in her early childhood, and then she was gathering those wonderful
It's amazing that these are preserved so well.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Yes. And some of them they found in America, in the States.
Oh, nice!
Yeah.
Including some very precious and very fragile paper Advent calendars, kept under glass for safekeeping.
This one is the oldest known to date Advent calendar. It's like an Advent clock. You put the clock hand every day 1 hour to the next.
Now, I don't know any German, so forgive me. I recognize Kinder for children.
For children.
What's the first word?
It's a Christmas clock.
Oh,
a Christmas clock for children.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So that's what that word means? Weihnachtsuhr?
Weihnachtsuhr. Eine Weihnachtsuhr.
Yeah.
Für Kinder.
For Kinder.
Yeah?
That's lovely. Lots of Christmas and Christian imagery, from angels to crosses to nativity scenes. Although I don't remember seeing one of Snow White's dwarves being one of the 3 wise men.
The dwarfs, we have an area in Germany called the Erzgebirge.
Okay.
And they put many dwarfs in the scenes, and not so the Christian symbols. Because Erzgebirge, they were miners. Yeah? They lived.
Oh, right, like the
in
dwarves.
The yeah.
Oh, so that's what that's a symbol of. And then there are some decidedly non-dwarf-sized Christmas decorations here, too.
This is made in the Erzgebirge, in the mountain ore in Germany, for the festive light in the living room.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do we know which year this was made, or how
It's
old?
about 1900. Wow.
And next, instead of letters to Santa begging for tons of toys, German and Austrian children used to do something completely shocking. They wrote thank you letters to their parents.
To wish all the best and health
To their
to
parents.
the parents, yes. It was common in the 18th and 19th century. But we forgot it now. They don't do it now.
I was going to
nowadays.
say, nowadays, kids,
No.
it's the opposite. You don't see them really being that's a great tradition to bring
Yes.
back. But let's not get crazy here. Those darling little Lieblings of the past still asked for a present or two, but still differently than an American child would.
Children wrote to Christkind, yeah? And they put it in the window in the evening, and when it disappeared,
That means that Christkind came and has his letter.
Yes.
But how would the Christkind know the letter was for him? Can you read that for me in English, or translate it in English?
An das liebe Christkind im Himmel. It's just to the lovely baby child in heaven.
In heaven?
In heaven.
Oh, so that would be the pre-printed envelope and the children would put their letter in it?
Yeah, and it
that's
goes to
so
heaven.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And another difference is that in America, we have Santa and the elves and the reindeer. But in Austria, the Christmas gift distribution system is handled by a few other characters.
Christkind is bringing the parcels in Austria and Germany on the 24th in the evening of the 24th. Christkind looks like an angel. In Austria and South Germany, Christkind comes. And in northern Germany, the Weihnachtsmann.
And who's the Weihnachtsmann?
The Weihnachtsmann helped the Christkind in the beginning.
Okay.
But then he went by himself to the children. And so he's a man, a strong man with a beard. And
he's a good guy.
He's
and
a good
carries
guy.
the gifts.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good. Okay, good. Sound familiar? That good guy with the beard carrying all those gifts, well, he later became known as Santa Claus. And it's a good thing that Weihnachtsmann is a good guy, because there is a seriously bad guy associated with Christmas here in Austria, who we will meet later, whether we want to or not. Maybe if we sing a Christmas carol, we can keep the bad guys away. But not just any Christmas carol.
The Christmas carol Silent Night was first performed in 1818 in a small town near Salzburg. But it was actually written by a Salzburg priest named Joseph Moore, and he was baptized right here at Salzburg Cathedral.
Silent Night was first performed on Christmas Eve in 1818